Hi, I'm Eric Stangeland. I'm calling in from Los Angeles, California. I was nominated for the supervising location manager for Mosquito Coast.
Hi, my name is Isaias Galicia. I'm calling from Mexico City, and I'm nominated for Mosquito Coast in Mexico, Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Puebla.
Hello, I'm Kent Sponagle, calling from Vancouver, nominated for the series Woke.
My name is John Alexander. I'm nominated for the pilot of Woke for Hulu, and I'm calling from Vancouver, BC today.
My name is Charlie Skinner. I'm the supervising location manager for Yellowstone, and I am zooming in from a trailer on the set of 1883, which is a prequel to Yellowstone, which we are currently filming in Weatherford, Texas.
Et bonjour, je m'appelle Valerie Segond et j'ai travaillé sur Lupin en tant que responsable des repérages.
Bonjour, alors je suis Thomas DeSameri et je suis location manager sur Lupin et je suis actuellement à Paris.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the LMGI panel for Contemporary Television Nominees. We are really excited to have everybody with us today, and we're gonna just jump in with our guests immediately from Mosquito Coast, who are Eric Stangeland and Isaias Galicia. I probably pronounced your name wrong, Isaias, but we'll give you an opportunity to pronounce it correctly in a few seconds. Let's talk about, this is it's a really fascinating book, and also crazy that a film came out at approximately the same time. So, but Eric, since the storyline jumps from Los Angeles first, I'd love to, number one, talk about how you tackled it location-wise in Los Angeles, and then how you sort of tossed the baton to those in Mexico, and how that all went down. And
well, it was a crazy show. Originally, we were supposed to shoot more episodes up here in Los Angeles. We originally had 42 locations up here in Los Angeles that we were prepping, and I mean, we had booked them, we had paid for most of them, and we had 42 locations up here. And then because of budgetary concerns, they took away about 30 locations from us to move to Mexico. But then I guess, and this is what happened, is in Mexico, I guess they had a giant rainstorm, and a lot of the desert stuff became very green and lush and didn't look like desert anymore. So they moved those 30 locations that we had then gotten our money back, stopped prepping. They had moved them back up onto my plate. So we quickly scrambled to get those 30 locations back. We started prepping again those locations. And then at the last minute, literally a week before we started filming, they pulled those 30 locations away from us again and moved them back to Mexico. So it was crazy. I mean, we went from 42 locations to 12 locations multiple times. So it was a lot of scrambling. Now that being said, the locations that we had up here had their own challenges, of course, some of which were just getting through bureaucracy and red tape. There were, as you had mentioned earlier, a couple of locations that had been off the filming books for a while. The Oxnard Transit Center was offline. Newhall Ranch was offline. And we had to bring those people back around. And it took a lot of negotiating, a lot of time, and a lot of effort. But we did it, and I'm glad, because I think they added significantly to the project.
Eric, can you tell us a little bit about just a sort of synopsis paragraph about the storyline of Mosquito Coast, so that everybody kind of understands the setup for the show?
Sure. So we have a family that's on the run from society and the government. The father, Mr. Fox, is a scientist who has developed a way to make ice from fire. And he's trying to get this technology into the world. And the government at least from what we've seen so far, is against this and trying to pursue him and his family. So they are staying off the grid. And the locations that we had to pick had to reflect this. Everything we had to do had to be away from people. It had to look like it was on the fringe of everything. Nothing was, where you would normally see people walking, conversing, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I noticed that. I mean, the locations, particularly in that show, really had that feel of isolation in many ways, and also just how when the kids especially get into the real world, that they're so naive and they're so unaware of how to behave almost in a big population. There were a couple really interesting locations that I noticed, and we'll talk to Isaias when he gets back about some of the Mexico locations. But in the California, LA area, I know starting with the Fox House was, had that feel of being sort of very isolated, and that they were really living on their own. And then one thing that I was particularly fascinated by too is when they there's a scene where it's sort of like catacombs almost. It's almost like a lot of homeless people living in I thought it might have been the old Hawthorne Mall. I wasn't sure. Was that from your part of it, or was that done in Mexico? It was a lot of homeless people, a lot of tents and awnings, and
we had a very small connective part of that. That was one of the original locations that was supposed to be up here, and we were looking at some warehouses down by the 4th Street Bridge, and we ended up doing the exterior of that, just up right on the edge of Chinatown, up against some chain link fences and stuff, and down by the warehouses. We did a little segment, but I think the main homeless camp ended up being down in Mexico.
Okay, and the desert, was the desert portions up here or down in Mexico?
Again, we ended up just having some connective tissue. We went out to buy 4 aces and got a little bit of drone work and some driving along 150th and out there. But the main desert scenes ended up going back to Mexico.
Right. Okay. And what in LA or California was the hardest challenge for you creatively to find?
Well, the Fox home was the hardest. I had been brought on, thankfully, way in advance on this project. They gave me months and months of scouting alone before my team even came on. And I ended up showing probably about 50 homes to the director, all the way from Orange County, all the way up almost to Stockton, and showed many homes, and he just didn't like any of them. They didn't feel remote enough, or they didn't have the feel of vantage points. That was one of the big things. Was the director felt that if we could look out any window of the home, we should be able to see an approaching vehicle, no matter where you are on the property, from a long way away, to give them time to prep and escape. So another location manager brought the Fox home that we ended up choosing on Newhall to the director's attention, and he presented it to me, and I went there, and of course I was given a absolutely not, go away. And then through over a month of negotiating and talking, we ended up securing that location, and it's a beautiful location, and they filmed there since, which is nice. It's, it seems like it's back open, but it was definitely a challenging location in just the sense of getting everyone on board. And it was a beautiful location. I mean, as soon as I scouted it, I knew that was what they needed.
Yeah.
And it was worth a month of effort. So
you can it's funny, that gut instinct, like you can just tell when sometimes you're like, this is it, this is going to be it, like this hits all the buttons, and it's something I think all of us have, that sort of sixth sense. You feel it in your belly, kind of.
Yeah.
And what was so Isaias, you and Horatio, then Horatio couldn't make the call because apparently he's in the jungle somewhere.
Yes. Yeah. No, please.
What is the relationship between your role and Horatio's role, Isaias?
Horacio made the desert, that it was chapter 2 and 3 in Mexicali or Mexicali for you, that is in the border with Calexico in California, and I did Puebla, the big hacienda, and Mexico City. So we stopped because the coronavirus,
Mhm.
and after I think 4 months later, we began again in Guadalajara. Well, first of all, we went to Puerto Vallarta. It was the place where we want to do the jungle, and we were trying to find the Mexico City near Puerto Vallarta, but Puerto Vallarta is a little town,
Yeah.
beside the beach, and it's not like Mexico City. So we have to move to Guadalajara. That is a big city, the second biggest city in Mexico, in the country, and we did Mexico City in Guadalajara. It was a little bit difficult because Mexico City has a different energy and a different massive crowds of people than Guadalajara, but I think it looks good.
I thought it looked great. I mean, I've been to both cities and I thought it looked like Mexico City. So, I noticed too, talking about the crowds, that there were quite a few big crowd scenes down there. Was that a challenge to do during COVID? And
Yes, because we have to close big squares, big plazas, main streets, and because we live in Guadalajara like in a bubble, so we don't want anybody else than us there in the set. So it was a challenge because it was a big thing in Guadalajara, and with the COVID, and when we shooting there, that it was in the red light it was the peak of the pandemia in Guadalajara. So it was difficult because all the weekends Guadalajara was closed for everybody. So you can go out to the streets all in 2 weekends, and we want to film, to shoot.
Right.
And it was a challenge with the government and with all the permits and the owners of the stores and the houses. But well, we enjoy it.
yeah, well, you did an amazing job. And so did they, when they decided that they were going to film in Mexico and they brought you all on, what did they give you? Did they give you anything visual to make that transition, or was it just the material, the scripts, or did you see some of the locations in Los Angeles that had been part of the setup?
Yes, the place that you said of the tents of the homeless, it was well, we shoot here in Mexico City. Well, it's a county, and the name is Naucalpan. It's in the Estado de Mexico. It's next to Mexico City, and the name of that plaza is Acropolis. And yes, we did that scene in Mexico City. Well, the mall, the abandoned mall with the homeless, and it was a recurrent location here in Mexico. It was not a new one, but it looks great. I think Ram, the production designers, made a great work there because it looks spectacular in the series. It looks great.
It really does. I mean, it's notable. Like it really stood out to me, and it's like, wow, this is fantastic. How did they do this? And and I really wasn't sure whether they had done it in Los Angeles, because we have an old abandoned mall, sort of similar. And so I was thought, well, did they do it there, or it could have easily been either place.
Yes,
So-
and the exterior, excuse me, the exterior was in Mexicali. When Ali and Dina arrived to the mall, it was Mexicali, and in the interior is Mexico City. It was a crazy thing. I think they should shooting there. I don't know, but we have a good location here, so
it worked, I have to say. And I think, this is a question for both of you, Eric and Isaias, is this is a famous novel, so it must have been very inspiring to work on it. But what inspired you most about working on this project?
I think the scope of it. I love the movie that came out back in 1986, I believe, and I thoroughly enjoyed the movie as a kid. To work on something that has this kind of scope as an adult, later on in life, kind of scratched that itch that watching watching movies as a kid, and then be able to get to work in that series, get to work in that environment, was really nice. It was really cool. Now if I could only do Never-Ending Story.
Exactly. And what about you, Isaias? What was the big attraction and the challenge?
the big attraction, it was because the producer, Stacy Persky, is my friend, and we work together in many other things. So he called me and he said, Isaias, I want you to do this here in Mexico City, and I think you are the only one that can do. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one that can do here in Mexico. Here are very, very talented people, and that's the key, because I didn't saw the movie. I read the book, but I didn't saw the movie. I was 3 years old when it was released, and I think this was the key. And I said, okay, let's do it. It was a challenge because when I read in the script Mercado Sonora and La Merced, I said, wow, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that we have to control. And I like the challenge. So I said, yes, let's do it. We can do it.
It's fantastic. And have you since seen the film? Have you both seen the film?
I have definitely seen the film. In fact, I went back and watched the film after I finished the project just to see what I did compared to what they did back in the 80s. It was cool.
Yeah.
I didn't see the film. Sorry.
It's okay. It's more pure that way that you didn't see the film. I want to cut back to Eric for a second, because some other significant shots that I thought were really cool were the drone shots over the asparagus. Was it an asparagus farm or what?
It was a tomato farm.
Tomato farm.
Yeah, they grew grape tomatoes. And yes, that location was, I wish we had the other location manager, but that location was a challenge as well. It was a massive working facility. They would not stop or slow down for anything. We had to work amongst over 400 workers and it was a very controlled environment. Everything was airlock doors. They had two sets of doors. So you'd go in, one door would shut, the other door would open, they'd go in. And the reason for that is they had constant, in those huge buildings, they were full of bees. They didn't want the bees to get out, or they didn't want other bees to get in. So every time the crew had to move around and get a shot, we had to go through these airlock doors. We had to always be very mindful that we were working around, I don't know how many bees, but a lot of bees. It was a constant threat of bees around us. but also the workers there would not stop for anything. If we were in the middle of a move and they had to move something or move, we stopped, which is understandable. I mean, it's their facility, but it's an amazing facility. They were originally not interested in having this film at all. They actually referred to us as "you film people can go," but because of the help of another location manager, Bob Lepucki, his charm won him over, and we were able to film there, and it was a phenomenal facility. In the end, they actually allowed us to do a significant amount of set decoration there. Originally, they said, nope, you can't touch anything, nothing can be moved. But by the end, we were using their equipment, their carts, we got to paint the walls and put our logos up and put extra pipes over the walkways. And it ended up being a fantastic location, a big challenge.
And where was it, Eric?
That was out in, oh my goodness, I'm brain fart. Sorry.
Oxnard, or?
It was right by Oxnard. Starts with a C. Oh my God. Right by Oxnard. It was right on the edge of Oxnard.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, cool. It was really, really, really cool. I mean, all the locations were just fantastic. A lot of big driving shots. I mean, all the, everything that you all did. Isaias, I think we'll sort of start wrapping up Mosquito Coast. So what have I not asked you guys? Isaias, I'll start with you, that you really want to point out about how locations really contributed to the creative overall feel and storyline of this show.
Well, I think the locations tell to the people, to the public, that the family is really running through all the country, and I think the locations make the story, because the story is moving all the time. So you have to show the desert, the city, the hacienda, the jungle, the beach, the little town beside the beach, and you said, okay, they're moving, they are really moving, because you are seeing many things. And of course the locations in California, in Los Angeles. I thought the tomato facility was amazing. This drone sequence, it was amazing. I think the first chapter is a great chapter, because it tells you enough story of the family, just with the locations, because you see the house and the work and the streets. That's all that you see, and it's and those locations tells you what are they doing there. What is his life? What is their life?
I love, what I can really tell, and it's really nice to see, is I can see, Isaias, what a fan of the work in Los Angeles you are, and Eric, I can see in you what a fan of the work in Mexico, and how you both really feel, even though you might not have been working so directly together, that you created this project together, and that it's really nice. That's a really nice thing to see.
Absolutely.
So, Eric, did you want to point out anything that we haven't touched on?
No, I mean, I'm just very happy to finally be in communication with the gentleman that made it happen down in Mexico, and I appreciate him greatly. Thank you.
I think it's great, and I'm very sorry that Horacio couldn't join us.
Hey, JJ, sorry to interrupt your panel, but I have Charlie Skinner here from Yellowstone, and we have a couple questions for him. Charlie, congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you very much. Very happy.
How do you think the locations contributed to the storytelling and character development aspect of the show? And can you point out some examples?
Well, the Yellowstone Ranch is sort of our hero location for the show. It is obviously the ranch that the main family live at, and the whole storyline revolves around. The storyline is, in fact, about the trials and tribulations of how they can keep their grasp on the ranch while developers and others try to take it from them. So the whole thing revolves around how do we keep this family heirloom that we've had for so long and keep it in the family and maintain our sort of, values that we have within the ranch lifestyle that we've grown up with.
In choosing that ranch, what was the process? Did you have a long lead time on finding it? And it must have been pretty amazing scouting such a almost untouched region of the US for filming to be able to, the world is your oyster, figure out how to do it. Did you have any parameters, or how did that go?
Yeah, that was very exciting. We didn't have too much time, but we did have some time to scout early on. The production designer and I had long conversations with Taylor Sheridan, the showrunner and writer and director of season 1 and subsequent seasons. And the storyline revolved around this family that had this ranch that was originally scripted for Paradise Valley, Montana. And we were adamant about filming it in Montana, but we couldn't find the proper ranch in Paradise Valley. Paradise Valley is a little bit more developed than other regions of Montana. And we spread out to other parts to see if we could find something. And we eventually found this amazing ranch on the other side of Montana in the Bitterroot Valley, the very, very southern end of the Bitterroot Valley, that we thought was absolutely perfect for it. However, much to the chagrin of the producers and everyone, we were pretty far from any major infrastructure. We were in a state that had, at that time, no film incentive, and we weren't even in the scripted area and geography of Montana. So we got a lot of pushback originally, but the designer and myself fought hard for it. And I think that it's a major point to this film or the show. And I think that it's, and we're absolutely thrilled. And the producers now obviously are very thrilled that we stuck to our guns there.
That's great. And obviously we're in season 4 here. So that was scouted
3.
quite a while ago.
Or we've shot 3. Yeah.
You've shot 3.
The we've shot 4, but this nomination is for 3.
Yes, understood. When I saw about downtown Bozeman was not actually shot in downtown Bozeman. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we shot some B-roll in downtown Bozeman on season 1, and we would put that in where we saw fit. But the studio, since Montana didn't have a film incentive, we went to an incentive state, Utah, at the time, and built our studio there and tried to find a match for Bozeman around our studio. Our studio is in Park City. We couldn't find anything near there, but we did go north to Ogden, and Ogden has an older sort of section of town that we were able to shut down in its entirety for a couple weeks at a time. And we transformed that into Bozeman, and it worked pretty well.
Very neat. I heard another location to talk about is your horse waterfall, and talking about that ranch and why you chose that ranch, and what kind of like your list of must-haves when you were looking for this piece.
Yeah, that was an interesting one, because Taylor came up to me and basically said, we need to find a place where we can run 1,000 horses down a hill, and they need to naturally just run down the hill, and we're going to have all of our actors practically riding next to them, no stunt doubles, but the real riders. And how are we going to do that? Because in a normal case, you take 1,000 horses that don't normally live together. They're not going to go in one sort of group down a hill ever. So we had to find a ranch that had a bunch of nearly wild horses on it already that sort of had this natural progression throughout the day where they would graze up top of the ranch and then they would make their way down to a lower portion of the ranch. And because they had this sort of natural movement already, it was a little bit easier for our wranglers to start to sort of train them to do that movement quicker. And eventually we added some horses to it and had them running down this whole thing in a sort of what looked like a waterfall from one end of the ranch down to the other, downhill with practical actors. And it was pretty amazing. It was fun to do.
Did you get it in one take?
I think they did it in two. But yeah, they did it twice, I think, but on 2 different days. We could only do it once a day.
Oh, how fascinating. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as far as like, this is season 3. What was your like milestone or aha moment when it came to the season when you were shooting and scouting? Maybe there was something that really was like, this is it. This is the one. That scene was pretty great to get, that one we just talked about with the horses. We had to travel pretty far for it and to find it and get it done. I think there was a lot of stress on set and in prep about how we were going to really make this work. So once that happened and it was shot later in the scene, we were pretty confident that the rest of the season we could get through. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Skinner. Congratulations again on your LMGI nomination, and everybody tune in October 23rd to our award show. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for the nomination. We're very thankful.
Great.
So we have with us John Alexander and Kent Sponagle from Woke, which is the only comedy nominated in these contemporary LMGI, contemporary TV series LMGI Awards. So congratulations on being a comedy and making it into that mix. This is a really intriguing series to me, and I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't watched enough of it to really get the overall feel. But I love the general vibe, and I think it must be a bit. How did you feel about tackling San Francisco? Well, this is really for both of you guys, about tackling San Francisco in Vancouver.
Oh yeah, it's a challenge. We don't really have the streets and the buildings of this, that San Francisco is a major U.S. city, and Vancouver is relatively a pretty small town, in its own way. But just the scope of San Francisco is a bit daunting to try to pull off in Vancouver. So we did our best with it. We landed in Chinatown, which I think gave us a little bit of that San Francisco flavor. But they're very different cities. Like we don't have the hills and San Francisco is like no other city in the world. So it's a hard one.
But it really did have the vibe. I mean, Kent, how did you feel about that, about creating the vibe?
It was interesting. It's like our designer and our director were very on top of their vision, and so it got, we couldn't do the big wides because it's like John said, it's like San Francisco is San Francisco, and it's hard. So we kind of moved towards finding shots and angles that spoke to San Francisco ideals, like West Coast ideals, and like in North Vancouver, one of our municipalities here, there's a major road with older buildings, and it's on quite a slope, so that gave us that little bit of a hint of San Francisco that we could build on and work from. And the same, we went down into Chinatown here, and again it spoke to you get those hints of San Francisco, and they were able to develop off of that.
Yeah. And had you both been to San Francisco?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you would, were there a lot of reference photos, or were you guys looking at a lot of reference images?
I'd gone down on a trip before I started on another show that was set sort of in San Francisco. It was Man in the High Castle, so it was a dystopian kind of take on like post-war San Francisco that is being, it was occupied by Japanese forces. So I went down and got a bunch of shots and references. But I love San Francisco, and I've been there a ton. My uncle was at Marina County, so we went down there.
Yeah, I was when I was looking at the Chinatown apartment, because shooting in San Francisco, Chinatown's hard. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Is it challenging also in Vancouver to shoot in Vancouver?
It's actually, I think it's easier than most people think. Actually, for some reason, you just have to have a translator and do the legwork, and everybody plays ball. And parking is relatively doable. There's lots of adjacent streets that can manage our giant load of trucks that we all meet everywhere now. So it's pretty good. And again, everyone is there's a lot of good business people down there. They work with you, whereas a lot of neighborhoods are really saturated, and people will just not be interested at all in having a conversation with you about something. So.
The biggest obstacles always seem to be like scheduling with other crews trying to get into the same spots that you want to get into, or the same neighborhoods. That was the biggest thing for us.
Yeah, we are definitely having that challenge here in LA now as well.
Yeah.
Very much. They do, in one of the write-ups, and I'm not sure who actually sent this one in, was they were talking about, that these are characters that like ride they said the Muni, but I would think, the Muni, the BART in San Francisco. And I didn't know if there were any scenes of that that you guys shot. Is that, did you shoot on actual public transportation in Vancouver?
We shot,
not the pilot.
Yeah, we shot on a bus for like a couple of days actually, and just going around and around and around the blocks. But that was like just a bus, like a transit bus that we just hired. There was stuff scripted, to go on BART and that sort of thing. And I think we faked a station, but we didn't actually go on any subway cars or anything like that. But we were on an actual bus driving around the neighborhood for a couple of days.
Right. And what was for you creatively, what do you think the big challenge was in doing the series?
We had a major snowfall the first like the day that we went to camera, and so it was a challenge because we had to flip schedule, like run for weather cover, and then shovel streets, and it was like, in Vancouver we'll get snow, but it doesn't usually stick around. But this one seemed to want to stick around for a while. So
That's
a challenge.
That was. Am I muted or not?
You're on,
it was a similar thing on the pilot. We ended up getting a forecast of snow, so we had to switch our dates for the sequence we did at the Vancouver Art Gallery, which was the big takedown where he first gets kind of radicalized and realizes that life is not as he thought. It becomes woke. So we were there, and then because we flipped our dates, the city had missed that they'd also booked in like a Venezuelan protest. So on the reverse of almost everything that we were shooting was this group of very kind protesters who literally like locked up for when we were shooting. So we had like a megaphone, and we were like, in Spanish, they were like, okay, it's quiet now. And then we were like, okay, rolling, shoot it. Then we cut, and then the minute we start cutting, they'd start clapping and doing it, and then they'd start on their songs, their Venezuelan song. It was insanity, but it was just one of those like things that reminds you why you love what you're doing. So it was, everyone worked together, and it turned out beautifully.
Surreal, really.
Yeah, it was.
Get that, like, oh well, okay, we got a crowd and we have their cooperation is pretty.
Yeah, they were lovely. They had this one incredible woman that was kind of leading the protest on this megaphone, and she just had them in the palm of her hand. Like they were all totally quiet. Like not even and then the minute we said cut, they would all like, start like, yeah, it was a trip. I lost the few remaining hairs I had that day. It worked out.
It's really I know one of the episodes that I was watching was the Black Man for Rent episode with and that one. I mean, I think it's interesting. The show definitely tackles some issues, obviously, right? And I have to ask this. So, as as non-Black or as white guys, was there any awkwardness in any of the the fact that you were location managing or as you went along?
Not really. I mean, we're a pretty liberal society here in Vancouver. We're pretty laid back, and pretty understanding and open. I did have I was a little bit nervous just when they were putting up posters on telephone poles and that sort of thing in around our set. So, but there was no reaction or anything like that. But we want to be sensitive, so we did have them, have set deck take them down right away. So.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I'm sure those would raise some eyebrows.
Mm-hmm.
And so what about some of the other creative challenges that you all faced on the series?
Sorry, I missed that.
I'm saying, what about some of the other challenges that you all face from a location perspective? In terms of we're all talking about an award where locations contributed creatively to the overall storytelling and the feel of the project. What are some of the things that you can really point out, or some of the challenges that you can really point out that achieved that goal?
That's a tough one. It's just you kind of just working closely with the directors and the designer, and you just sort of that's a tough one to answer. I'm not really sure how to.
I mean, sometimes it's just the whole show, right? Sometimes it's never just like one defining moment. We all get into this whole defining moment, and I
think probably for us it was just the whole Vancouver as SF of it all. That was just. I love my city. It's a lot of things, but San Francisco it is not. So it's always just a little bit of a challenge to get people on board with we could do this, and maybe, it was a great team. We worked with Eva, who's the DP on Insecure, who is fantastic to work with, and Mo is unbelievable, the director. So it was cool because they were all young and just really excited about the project. And the challenge, it never felt, it's one of those shows that never felt like everyone didn't have each other's back. So it was one of those rare moments where I was like, oh, this sucks. The whole schedule changed. We had a really great rep of the city that made that all facilitate well. So there was some times when we were kind of decided to go a little bit, I wouldn't say rogue, but we were in Chinatown and we were kind of taking a little bit of liberties with our permit. But I was there, standing with them. They were like, "How about this? Can we do this?" They're like, "Yes." It was 10 o'clock in an alley that we weren't really permitted for, but it was fine. We had cops there. But yeah, things like that. It was just one of those things where you really wanted to make it work for everybody because it was that good team. So.
And Mo and Todd, our designer, they had, I think Todd's from San Francisco, and they had a vision and sort of a vibe they wanted to catch, and they were able to do it. And like I say, being able to just take a hint of San Francisco in the shots and then build on it, and it worked really well.
Mm-hmm. Well, it clearly worked really well because I've been to San Francisco a lot, and I was super confused about
Yeah.
You know, like, wait, this, you know, when I realized as I was doing my notes, I was like, wait, this shot in Vancouver?
We fooled a Californian. I love
That's
it.
good.
No, it's great.
Hi, JJ. We have to interrupt you briefly. We have a chat with our location friends in Paris who are in charge of bringing us the locations for the LMGI nominated Lupin. We have Thomas DeSameri and Valerie Segond with us. Congratulations on your nomination. Félicitations. Donc, j'aimerais savoir de quelle façon les lieux de tournage ont contribué à l'aspect de la série ou le développement des personnages dans la série. Est-ce que vous aurez des exemples de comment les lieux de tournage auront affecté ces choses-là?
Oh bah ouais. Vas-y Valérie, vas-y Valérie, vas-y.
C'est vrai que Lupin est bon c'est son personnage. Il évolue en fait dans les beaux quartiers. Il aime les belles choses. Et donc, c'est vrai que je crois que la lignée artistique, en fait, c'était vraiment, le choix artistique, c'était vraiment de montrer Paris sous vraiment, enfin, de la manière dont Paris la belle, quoi, la plus jolie possible. Et du coup, le choix de tourner, par exemple, dans le musée du Louvre, je crois, était vraiment très porteur, en fait, pour la série. Voilà, on se dit tout de suite, tiens, Lupin va essayer de dérober des choses d'une grande valeur, et en plus on est dans le plus grand musée prestigieux français, et voilà, je crois que c'était quand même un choix artistique qui a vraiment, je ne sais pas ce que tu en penses Thomas, mais je crois que c'est un peu ça, quoi.
Oui, bah, et puis surtout, c'est vrai que Paris est un super terrain de jeu pour Lupin. Il y a beaucoup aussi de décors extérieurs qui ont été écrits. Au final, on se rend compte que tout au long de la série, on est quand même beaucoup aussi dehors. Et effectivement, des lieux emblématiques étaient importants pour le personnage, à la fois effectivement des beaux quartiers comme dit Valérie, dans le côté voilà, du personnage, dans le côté dérobé, etc. Mais également dans un autre Paris également un peu moins forcément emblématique. On a fait un petit peu de tout pour Lupin qui évolue dans tout le Paris en fait, dans tout le Paris qu'on connaît.
Super. Et le processus de repérage a duré combien de temps?
6 mois, hein, je crois, à peu près.
Ouais. Sur les...
Le repérage.
Bah après, non, disons qu'il y a forcément des décors qui sont écrits déjà. C'est sûr qu'on peut pas, on va pas inventer le Louvre. Hein. Quand c'est écrit le Louvre, on va nous ensuite aller travailler le Louvre. Hein. C'est vrai que donc il y a des décors comme ça qui sont tout de suite emblématiques et choisis par l'écriture. On va pas effectivement forcément aller les chercher. En revanche, des lieux comme effectivement la cachette de Lupin ou la cachette de Ferrel ou les commissariats ou d'autres décors comme ça. Là, comme on veut effectivement qu'il y ait un lien avec les autres décors parisiens, là, il y a une vraie recherche en amont de Valérie qui démarre au moins, oui, peut-être 3 mois avant au moins 3 mois avant le tournage. Et puis, nous, on complète après en régie.
Ouais, c'est ça. C'est vrai que souvent, les repérages démarrent 2 à 3 mois avant la préparation officielle. Hein, avant que le premier assistant ait fait son plan de travail, etc. Et c'est vrai qu'on a eu on a pris du temps aussi à trouver la cité dans laquelle évolue Lupin quand il est petit, quand on le voit petit, etc. Cette fameuse cité qui n'était pas évidente à trouver au départ. Et effectivement, comme le dit Thomas, le fameux repère de Lupin était aussi quelque chose assez voilà, assez difficile finalement.
Ouais, donc vous avez pu inspirer l'histoire avec les lieux que vous avez trouvés justement pour ces décors qui sont moins iconiques peut-être que le Louvre.
Absolument, ouais, tout à fait. C'est là où vraiment nous on est intervenu en dehors des décors très emblématiques qui étaient presque déjà entre guillemets écrits. Alors voilà, il y avait le Louvre, il y a eu enfin voilà, il y en a eu plusieurs, effectivement.
Ouais. Et justement, en parlant du Louvre, c'est tellement un lieu reconnaissable mondialement. Est-ce que ça a été difficile comme processus?
Enfin, en tout cas, oui, pour moi, en régie, ça n'a pas été simple pour différentes raisons. C'est que le Louvre, en fait, est fermé qu'une seule journée dans la semaine. On ne peut pas demander de le fermer un autre jour où on ne peut pas intervenir. Voilà, c'est le lundi, il faut le savoir. Donc, du coup, on a un timing qui est extrêmement précis et déterminé. Et on doit à la fois travailler la déco, monter le décor, tourner, remballer. Parce que voilà, on ne peut pas ouvrir le Louvre, il ouvre à 8 heures pour la clientèle, pour les touristes, pour tout le monde. On ne peut pas l'ouvrir à 8h02 ni à 8h03, on l'ouvre à 8h. Donc, c'est vrai que c'était au millimètre. Au millimètre, c'était un gros travail en amont avec le Louvre, avec les équipes, avec tout le monde pour que tout se passe nickel.
Et si je peux demander combien de lundis avez-vous fait?
Eh ben, pas tant que ça, figurez-vous, parce qu'en
ouais.
fait, il y a la partie intérieure du Louvre et il y a la partie extérieure qui sont différents. Pour la partie intérieure, en tout cas, on l'a tourné en 2 lundis. Ouais, 2 lundis, et après les extérieurs, il y a eu 3 jours d'extérieur. Voilà.
Encore des lundis.
Ouais. Oui, plutôt des lundis, parce qu'après, bon, on a complètement fermé le carrousel, etc. Donc, de mémoire, je crois que c'était également des lundis.
Ouais. Wow.
Ouais.
Super.
Et pour,
et donc, oui, pardon. Vas-y.
Non, vas-y. Non, je voulais raconter une petite anecdote sur la recherche du repère de Lupin. On voulait que ce soit un lieu un peu énigmatique, un peu comme une grotte, quoi. On sent vraiment le repère de toujours de Lupin, là où il se transforme, là où il se change, où il a tous ses déguisements, etc. Et pour la petite histoire, en fait, on a tourné au lycée Jacques Decour, qui est un des plus grands lycées de Paris. Et c'est aussi parce que, en fait, pour la petite histoire, ma fille était dans ce lycée. Et je savais, en fait, qu'il y avait une salle d'archives, en fait, sous les toits. Et je me demandais toujours ce qu'il y avait vraiment au dernier étage de ce lycée. Et connaissant le proviseur, pour lui avoir parlé plus avec voilà, des difficultés ou pas de ma fille, en tout cas, voilà, tout d'un coup, alors, j'ai appelé le proviseur, je lui ai dit, mais qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans la salle des archives là-haut, parce que bon, il savait aussi que je fais du repérage. Et il m'a fait découvrir ce lieu exact. Et c'est effectivement une salle des archives où les élèves ne vont jamais, en fait. Hein. C'est vraiment, il y a, c'est vraiment voilà, la salle des archives où il y a des bustes en plâtre, où il y a des animaux empaillés. Donc, c'est vraiment un lieu très mystérieux, très anecdotique. Et voilà. Et quand il m'a ouvert ce lieu, je me suis dit qu'effectivement, ça ne pouvait être que le repère de Lupin, parce que c'est vrai que c'était l'atmosphère qui régnait, c'était vraiment un truc assez incroyable, quoi. Voilà, ça c'est une petite anecdote en fait de ce décor.
C'est super et ça paraît tellement bien à la télé en plus.
Et en plus avec Françoise Dupertuis, qui est une chef décoratrice vraiment extraordinaire. Elle a fait un énorme travail et c'est vrai que le décor est assez fabuleux, absolument.
L'antiquaire à Saint-Ouen, comment est venu ce lieu-là à la production? Est-ce que moi, j'avoue que je connais pas trop géographiquement. Est-ce que c'est loin de Paris?
Alors, non, c'est pas loin de Paris, c'est à une porte de Paris. On dit même que Saint-Ouen, parfois, est le 21e arrondissement de Paris. Mais bon, si c'est pas tout à fait vrai d'ailleurs. En plus, moi, j'habite à Saint-Ouen, je suis Audegnien, donc j'habite tout près des Puces. Mais c'est vrai que c'est un lieu très emblématique, l'air de rien, qui est tout proche de Paris. C'est à la porte de Clignancourt. Donc, c'est vraiment tout proche. Comment c'est venu ça? Voilà, on cherchait un repère pour Ferrel. Je peux pas vraiment. C'est plutôt voilà, c'est de la recherche. Je crois que le réalisateur voulait vraiment être dans les puces, être voulait que voilà,
On en a parlé, effectivement.
ouais, qu'il soit dans les déambulations, effectivement, des puces, etc. Et voilà, on a fait plusieurs boutiques, on a cherché plusieurs, enfin voilà, on en a visité plusieurs avant de trouver celle-là.
Super. Et justement, ça vous a pris combien de temps pour filmer la première saison et combien de lieux approximativement que vous aviez repérés pour la saison 1?
Combien de lieux on a repérés à Saint-Ouen?
Non, pour la série au complet.
Je dirais une soixantaine, non? À peu près.
Bah, de lieux différents?
Ouais.
Ah bah, des décors, ouais, il y en a des décors, il y en a un paquet, ouais. Je pourrais pas vous dire précisément, mais effectivement, il y a un paquet de décors. Et en tournage, en gros, on a tourné la saison 1, donc les 10 épisodes, on les a tournés à peu près en 120 jours, je crois, entre 120 et 125 jours de mémoire. Il y a eu donc à peu près, ouais, ça fait 6 mois de tournage, je crois, 5 ou 6 mois de tournage. Ouais. En fait, on a tourné un an avec le Covid. On a commencé le tournage le 15 novembre 2019 et on a fini le 18 novembre 2020. Mais dedans, il y a eu le Covid qui est venu, voilà, qui nous a repoussé 3 mois, etc., qui nous a ennuyés comme à tout le monde. Voilà.
Mais c'est vrai que je pense qu'en tout, il devait y avoir à peu près, à mon avis, à peu près entre 70 et 80 décors, je crois, de mémoire. Et en général, les réalisateurs voient, on va dire, une moyenne de 2 décors, de 2 choix possibles pour un décor. Donc, ils voient 2 choix pour un décor. Donc ça fait plus d'une centaine de décors qu'on a vus, ça c'est sûr. Ouais.
Wow. Super. Et quel a été chacun et chacune votre lieu préféré et pourquoi?
Bah, moi, c'est vrai que sur cette saison 1, clairement, c'est le Louvre, hein, parce que le Louvre, on n'y tourne pas voilà, toutes les productions ne vont pas tourner au Louvre. Enfin, voilà, c'est assez, l'air de rien, compliqué d'y aller, d'avoir les moyens de le faire aussi, parce que il faut développer certains moyens quand même pour aller tourner dans le Louvre. Moi, en tant que régisseur, je sais que je ne vais pas y tourner sur chaque film. Hein, voilà, donc tous les régisseurs ne vont pas tourner au Louvre. Donc, c'est vrai que c'était un vrai défi de tourner là-bas. Et donc, forcément, j'en garde en tout cas de très, très bons souvenirs. Et c'est sûr que d'être avec Mona Lisa en tête-à-tête, c'est pareil, c'est pas tous les jours non plus. Donc, non, le Louvre, c'est vrai que ça a été une sacrée expérience. Très, très grande expérience.
Super. Et Valérie?
Hormis donc le repère de Lupin, donc j'ai mentionné tout à l'heure, j'ai beaucoup aimé la maison abandonnée. En fait, c'est une maison qui est en banlieue parisienne, à peu près à 40 km au nord-est de Paris, qui est une maison, oui, un peu abandonnée, même si les propriétaires, une grande famille de frères et sœurs, essayent d'entretenir entre guillemets cette maison. Ils le louent pour le cinéma, justement pour pouvoir refaire le toit et voilà, faire qu'il ne tombe pas totalement en ruine. Mais c'est vrai que donc je ne sais pas si vous vous souvenez, dans la série, c'est là où Lupin pense avoir perdu son fils. Et voilà, je trouve que cette maison, elle a vraiment... ouais, c'est un peu une maison étrange, un peu fantomatique, et je trouvais que elle allait comme un gant, en fait, par rapport à la séquence, par rapport à Lupin, je trouvais que c'était vraiment porteur, quoi. Voilà.
Oui, et puis même la distance entre quand il arrive et il faut se rendre à la maison, c'était très tendu.
Absolument. Ouais. J'étais vraiment contente de l'avoir trouvé, cette baraque, d'ailleurs.
Super.
Ouais.
Ben, je vous remercie beaucoup de votre temps et félicitations sur vos nominations. J'espère que vous en serez gagnant.
C'est vrai que je ne l'ai pas dit.
Merci à toi pour la traduction et le temps passé pour nous. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much to all of our attendees and our guests today. We had a great time talking about these locations and look forward to the awards on October 23rd. See you all there.